Do you remember when sports-related programs were about sports? When the anchors and the hosts weren't about propaganda and political agendas? Where the analysts and the host were actually knowledgeable about the subjects they covered? When their job descriptions didn't include being a social justice warrior? Sadly, those days are gone. Knowledgeable, trustworthy, and watchable have given way to the clueless. This is my take. ESPN. I grew up with it. Most of us grew up with it. If you're 40 years old or older, you remember the good old days when watching ESPN was must-see television, because what you got was sports and just sports by guys that knew what they were talking about, were fun to watch. ESPN was before the social media explosion and way before the saturated sports market that we have today in 2024. I could count on the following things when I watched ESPN. The dudes and dudettes that were on the show knew what they were talking about. They knew sports. They were fun to watch. They were enjoyable. They were sports TV personalities. They were guys that you and me would want to go out and have beers with. It was some of the best programming in all of sports, in all of television. If you're older than 40 years old, you're going to recognize all of these names right here on this list. They did a hell of a job back in the day. It was must-see television, Sports Center, the anchors, the shows. ESPN's 30 for 30 has to be the best sports documentary series ever in the history of TV. Unbelievable. Those personalities on this list, they're long gone. They were moved out of ESPN when they changed gears, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And it shouldn't really be any surprise that their parent company is Disney. And we all know what Disney has done to Disney and its brand. Unfortunately, ESPN has followed in the same direction. The network, its CEOs and bosses have turned a sports network into a politically driven agenda network. It's woke city, baby. And if you don't fit the bill or you don't check the box, you're going to be looking for work somewhere else. And that's really unfortunate. And as I've always said, whether it's the ESPN channel, it's the NBA or the NFL, keep sports and politics separate. In other words, keep politics the hell out of sports. People and sports fans watch sports television to watch athletes compete. We're not watching these shows to get lectured to, and we're definitely not watching these shows to listen to dudes that know absolutely zero about what they're talking about. I'm going to start with my favorite sports guru, Stephen A. Smith, and his show, ESPN's First Take. Now, I've never watched this. I mean, I knew what Stephen A. was all about when he first came on the scene. Is if I can yell loud enough and pound my fist on the table, you might think that I know what the hell I'm talking about. It didn't take very long for me to realize that he totally was clueless and had no idea what he was talking about. He also had agendas. But here we go. Here's this show that happened to catch my attention when the Washington Commanders hired Cliff Kingsbury to be their new offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Now, when I saw that hire, I said, hey, that's good. That's a good hire. Kingsbury's one of the best quarterback coaches out there. Kingsbury is proven. So it's a good hire, right? But imagine my surprise when up on my news feed one night, First Take pops up, and the tagline underneath it was something to the effect of, there is no possible reason for this hiring other than ... And I knew what it was going to be about before I even turned it on, but I had to do it. I'm a Kingsbury fan. And when I need comic relief, I listen to Stephen A. Smith pontificate about sports, and he didn't disappoint on this. Now, he was joined in this show by two other guys who are really big time knowledgeable sports guys and big time knowledgeable football guys and big time knowledgeable offensive coordinator and quarterback guys. And I'm talking about Damian Woody and Chris Mad Dog Russo. So here we go. And I'm going to let this clip play for you, and then we'll come back and discuss.
It cannot be disputed, okay? And so when I look at it from that perspective, and we talk about things, and I'm going to go here, doggy. We talk about diversity, and we certainly saw black coaches getting hired and all of that other stuff. That's not where I'm going. I'm saying from an historical perspective, we look at a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, and you know what we see as black folks? This is the kind of stuff that don't happen for black folks. And you get the offensive coordinator's job. It doesn't seem to me like there are bona fide football reasons as to why Cliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. You couldn't produce but so much in college. You damn sure didn't do it in the pros, but somehow, some way, job opportunities come your way.
Obviously, with Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams had a big-time year. He knows Caleb Williams. Now, the one thing I will say about the Caleb Williams thing.
Yeah, listen, I think that Cliff Kingsbury has been more of a guy that's been around these guys and actually developing these guys. But I haven't seen him develop guys. I've seen him be associated with guys, but I haven't seen him develop guys and have guys that are bona fide quarterbacks right now in the National Football League. So for me, that's the biggest question as relates to Cliff Kingsbury. Let me see you develop somebody first before we start showering accolades on top of you.
Accomplish what? You know what Cliff Kingsbury has accomplished? The brother knows how to smooth. But in terms of football, excuse me, I'm still waiting. How do you go from being in college football where you accomplished virtually nothing to getting a head coaching job, and somehow that's justification for him to be an offensive coordinator, bypassing a whole bunch of people that's been in the NFL, doing a hell of a lot more than he did? I don't know how you could make that argument, doggy.
Okay, so if you didn't get the gist of that, the premise of this show was Kingsbury hasn't done anything ever. You know, he's known for, I guess, his smoking hot relationship that he has with the young lady or the house that he lives in, not for coaching quarterbacks, not for coordinating an offense, not for anything he's done in football, right? But they also pushed, and you know, this is Stephen A's deal. He pushed the agenda that Kingsbury was hired for one reason and one reason only. It's because he's a white dude. And there's plenty of black guys or Hispanic coaches or coaches of color out there that are much more qualified than Kingsbury. It didn't matter that Dan Quinn or any other head coach in the NFL doesn't give one shit about the color of a coach's skin when they're hiring him. They're hiring the best guy for the job, and I think Washington did just that. But what killed me about this was the following. You got three guys voicing their opinion on why they thought Kingsbury was hired for all the wrong reasons or shouldn't have been hired at all. Three guys that have absolutely zero knowledge about football. Now, granted, Woody played in the league. He played in the NFL. He's an ex-NFL guy. He was an offensive lineman. Now, you can sit down and talk to the 10 greatest offensive linemen in NFL history. There's not one of those 10 guys that would have any clue on what it takes to be a good quarterback coach, how to coach quarterbacks, or how to coordinate an offense, what's involved in coordinating an offense. Absolutely zero. So why Woody was on this panel, I have no idea. Then you go to Chris Mad Dog Russo. It is amazing to me that this guy is a radio sports personality. The guy that's going to be drafted probably number 1 next month in the NFL draft, pretty famous guy, won the Heisman Trophy in 2022 for USC. His name's Caleb Williams. I know that. You know that. Stephen A. knows that. Woody knows that. Mad Dog Russo, I'm not so sure, because the first time he said his name, he called him Khalib. And I went, what? And I go, yeah, that's a glitch. He'll recover. The second time he said Caleb Williams, he called him Khalib. Okay. So, I mean, that's a credibility issue for me right there. So you've got Stephen A., who's never played anything in his life. You've got Mad Dog Russo, who's never played anything in his life and doesn't even know who the number 1 draft pick is going to be, doesn't know how to pronounce his name. And then you've got Damian Woody, who played offensive line, who doesn't know anything about coordinating or QB coach, and they're going to give their opinion on the matter. Now, one of the things that was talked about repeatedly by Stephen A. and Woody was the fact that Cliff Kingsbury's never done anything. And Woody said one time, well, he hasn't developed anybody. What has he done? And I'm like, are you shitting me? So take a look at this list right here. See if you recognize any of those names. They include a guy who is the all-time leading passer in NCAA history, a couple of 3 Heisman Trophy winners, a guy that's won multiple Super Bowls, and then the last guy on the list there, Davis Webb, lit things up for Texas Tech, went into the NFL, played a couple seasons, and now he's quarterback coach in the NFL. All of those guys played for Kingsbury in college, except for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray played for Kingsbury for the Arizona Cardinal, where he was all-pro 2 years. So, that statement right there, that is really an unbelievable statement by those 2 dudes right there. And Mad Dog, who's not sure about any of this conversation, is just sitting there on the triplet split screen going, yeah, nodding his head with this goofy look on his face. And I'm like, what in the hell am I watching? Okay, we move to another ESPN show now. This is Sunday NFL Countdown. And there's a young lady who basically controls the panel. I'm not sure of her name, but the 3 other guys on there are former NFL players, and the 4th guy is a former head coach. So you've got Alex Smith, Teddy Bruschi, Randy Moss, and Rex Ryan. So these guys have a clue, okay? And I'm watching the show one day, and they're talking about Tom Brady's rant during the season, where he came out and 100% was right in saying that the product that we're seeing in the NFL is not good right now. And he also said the quarterback position is substandard. And I agree with him 100%. Well, Alex Smith doesn't agree with Tom Brady. And so Smith took some cheap shots at Brady and gave his opinion as to why he thought Brady was so successful in New England, which was a bunch of garbage. But then he said the most incredible sentence that I've heard, maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard on an NFL analyst studio show in the history of dumb statements on an NFL show. Take a listen.
In my opinion, I think the game's gotten better. There's more parity across the league. Quarterback play is at an all-time high, I think, across the league. Like the best, you've got the best athletes playing the position. We didn't have this 30, 40 years ago.
Okay, so Alex, couple things here. Number one, yes, I'll agree with you that this may be the most athletic group of quarterbacks we've had in the NFL. Secondly, being an athletic quarterback does not make you a good quarterback. Okay? It doesn't. So when you say This is the golden age of QB play in the NFL. That's like unbelievable. So, just to remind folks out there that there used to be some dudes that weren't great athletes, just great quarterbacks. So let's take a look at, this is the 1980s. This group of guys played in the NFL and did their thing. And now there's some overlapping here as we go in and take a look at the 1990s. We might recognize some names on this list, and then there's an overlap or two as we go into the early 2000s. Now, what do all these guys have in common? Well, they were all great quarterbacks, and almost all of them are in the NFL Hall of Fame. So great quarterbacks. All of these guys played in these three eras. So, Alex, I don't know what in the hell you're talking about. And finally, we have Fox Sports and the show Undisputed with Skip Bayless. Wow. I mean, around the time that Kingsbury got hired and I listened to Stephen A's First Take and that garbage, I also caught wind of Skip Bayless and Keyshawn Johnson, who's another beauty, on this show, talking about, it was kind of the same topic, okay? But this is more geared towards Eric Bieniemy, who was the former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Although he didn't develop the offense, he didn't call the plays in the game. He had title only. And, people for years have been saying, hey, why isn't this dude getting a shot at a head job? Well, I don't know, but he cuts ties with Andy Reid and he goes to the Washington Commanders, where he stands alone as an offensive coordinator, and they end up giving him his walking papers. So he just got hired at UCLA, and Keyshawn was going on and on about, this is good for Bieniemy. He got screwed over basically by the NFL. But the thing that was amazing on this is the contribution that Skip Bayless gave to this conversation. So listen here. I put these cuts together just to shorten it down a little bit, but this is pretty much what Skip had to say about this issue.
I think it's a great fit for him. There's an opportunity there, right? Let's say, what do you think on an average? The average is 6 openings a year in the NFL?
Yeah, I think there were 8 this time.
Yeah, so let's say 6.
Yeah,
6,
right.
let's just for conversation's sake. So that's an 18 over 3 years, if my math is correct. He's interviewed for all them jobs. So that means that's half the league. They've all seen him. They've talked to him, the owners, the this and that, the general manager, but coaches, and nobody's hiring him. What has happened now is he's got an opportunity to go back to college, bring what he brought to Kansas City and Washington, Minnesota as the running back coach, bring it to UCLA with a young coach in Deshaun Foster, where in college, there's tons of people that get in front of him because there's so many teams. And their owner, the athletic directors, aren't making the hires no matter what they tell you. And neither is the president of the universities. The guy who's writing the check, he's making a hire.
Yeah.
Because what he says is, I want Skip Bayless. You go get me Skip, and I'll give you that $50 million you're looking for. And then I'll call my buddy Dean, and he'll give us another 50. And then I'll call Susie, whose husband just passed away. She has $1 billion. She'll give us some money.
Yep.
And they're the ones who's hiring the coaches. They're making the decisions. That's just a different. Chip Kelly ain't going in the households of these young brothers and getting many of them.
No.
But when you have a Deshaun Foster and a Eric Bieniemy, a Deion Sanders, those type of coaches going into the cities that make up your team and make your roster the way it is.
Starting with this city.
Yeah. You can close the deal.
Yeah.
That's world-class sports analysis right there, isn't it? Conversation, stimulating, along with First Take and Stephen A. and Alex Smith's great take on the state of the NFL QB situation. That's why these TV studio shows are losing viewers and losing money. People are just getting tired of the bullshit, and they're getting tired of being lectured to, and they're getting tired of listening to guys that say stupid stuff and really have no idea what they're talking about. You know, you want to find somebody that knows what they're doing and is going to speak truths and not lecture you and is going to talk to you about sports. Follow these guys on podcasts and listen to these guys on podcasts. There's some really knowledgeable people out there that are giving great content and great shows. So how do you guys feel about this? Do you miss the good old days with ESPN? Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Be on the lookout for my next observation and breakdown on my take, Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. This is QB Unfiltered, and remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.